The engineering bay of the human starship Endeavour hummed with the gentle vibration of quantum drives as Zara Phoenix ran her hands along the smooth metal console. Her fingers danced across holographic displays with practiced precision, adjusting power flow ratios with the kind of intuitive grace that came from years of intimate knowledge of starship systems. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, strands escaping to frame her face. "Phoenix, you've been down there for 16 hours straight," came the voice of her assistant through the comm system. "Even machines need maintenance breaks." Zara smiled despite her exhaustion. "Machines don't have deadlines for the most important diplomatic mission in human history, Torres. The Nexari delegation arrives in 6 hours, and I won't have our engines, failing when we need to impress them most." The Nexari. Just thinking about humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization made her pulse quicken. 3 months ago, their sleek vessels had appeared at the edge of human space, broadcasting messages of potential alliance. After decades of expansion into the galaxy, humans had finally encountered another spacefaring species, and the implications were staggering. As Zara finished her final diagnostics, the engineering bay doors hissed open. She turned, expecting Torres, but froze when she saw the figure silhouetted against the corridor lighting. Captain Jace Sterling stood there in his pristine uniform, his blonde hair perfectly styled, that familiar, confident smile playing at his lips. "Hello, Zara." Her heart clenched involuntarily. Even after 6 months since their messy breakup, Jace still had that effect on her. "What are you doing here, Jace? Shouldn't you be preparing for the welcoming ceremony?" He stepped closer, his blue eyes searching her face. "I wanted to talk to you before everything gets crazy with the aliens. We never really got closure, and with this historic moment coming up, I thought maybe we could try again. Start fresh." Zara set down her tools and crossed her arms. "Start fresh? You mean like how you started fresh with Lieutenant Chen while we were still together?" Jace had the decency to look ashamed. "That was a mistake, a moment of weakness. You know you're the only woman who's ever truly understood me, Zara. We were good together. We could be good again." Before Zara could respond, an alarm chimed through the ship. "All personnel to stations. Nexari delegation approaching. Repeat, Nexari delegation approaching." "We'll talk later," Jace said, moving toward the door. "Think about what I said." As he left, Zara felt the familiar tangle of emotions Jace always brought out in her. Love, anger, disappointment, and despite everything, a treacherous flutter of hope. She shook her head and focused on the moment. History was about to be made. The docking bay of the diplomatic station. Harmony buzzed with nervous energy as humans, and their alien guests prepared to meet for the first time in person. Zara stood with the engineering team, having been selected to demonstrate human technological capabilities. Her heart hammered as the Nexari shuttle descended through the atmospheric barrier. The vessel was unlike anything in human design, all flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to shift color in the light. When the docking clamps engaged with barely a whisper, Zara realized just how advanced their visitors truly were. The shuttle doors opened with a sound like singing crystal, and the Nexari delegation emerged. Zara's breath caught. They were humanoid but clearly alien, tall and elegant with skin that held an iridescent quality, shifting between pale silver and soft blue. Their features were sharp and beautiful, with large eyes that held an otherworldly intelligence. But it was their leader who made Zara's pulse skip. Commander Dex Vorthon moved with fluid grace, his muscular frame evident even, beneath the flowing robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. His hair was dark with silver streaks, and when his eyes met hers across the bay, she felt an electric jolt of connection. The formal introductions proceeded with diplomatic precision. Humans and Nexari exchanged pleasantries through translation, devices discussing trade possibilities and cultural exchange. But Zara found herself repeatedly glancing at Dex, and more than once she caught him looking back. During a break in the proceedings, Zara was examining one of the Nexari data tablets when a shadow fell across her workstation. She looked up to find Dex standing beside her, his imposing height making her feel delicately feminine in a way she wasn't used to. "Your quantum drive modifications are quite impressive," he said, his voice carrying a melodic quality even through the translator. "Our engineers would be curious to learn about your harmonic resonance techniques." Zara felt heat rise in her cheeks. "You understand human engineering?" "I understand the language of efficiency and elegance. Your work speaks both fluently." His eyes held hers, and she sensed something deeper than professional interest. "Commander Vorthen," came a smooth, female voice. They turned to see a Nexari woman approaching, her robes more elaborate than the others, marking her as high-ranking. "I see you're admiring human craftsmanship." Zara caught the slight pause, and the way the woman's large eyes narrowed almost, imperceptibly. Dex straightened, his expression becoming more formal. "Engineer Phoenix, this is Diplomat Nissa Keth. She's here to finalize our cultural exchange protocols." Nissa's smile was polite but cold. "How fascinating that humans allow their females to handle such complex machinery. On Nexari Prime, we believe in utilizing natural aptitudes more traditionally." The condescension was clear even through the translation. Zara felt her temper flare, but before she could respond, Dex stepped closer to her side. "Engineer Phoenix has achieved remarkable innovations in quantum field manipulation. Perhaps Nexari females could learn from her example." The tension between Dex and Nissa was palpable, and Zara realized she'd stumbled into something complicated. Nissa's expression remained serene, but her eyes flashed dangerously. Indeed, how educational this exchange promises to be. As Nissa glided away, Dex turned back to Zara. "I apologize for her manner. Nissa and I have history, political arrangements that no longer suit either of us." "Political arrangements?" Zara asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. "An intended mating, arranged by our respective families for diplomatic advantage. Neither of us desires it, but breaking such contracts carries consequences." He paused, studying her face. "Tell me, Engineer Phoenix, do humans ever enter relationships for strategic purposes?" Zara thought of Jace and his calculated charm, his political ambitions that always seemed to come first. "More often than we'd like to admit." "Then perhaps you understand my situation." Dex moved closer, close enough that she could smell something like ozone and starlight on his skin. "I find myself in need of assistance, a way to demonstrate that my interests lie elsewhere." "What kind of assistance?" Zara asked, though her racing pulse suggested she already knew. "The kind that involves a brilliant, beautiful human engineer appearing to have captured my complete attention, making it clear that any previous arrangements are no longer viable." Zara stared at him. "You want me to pretend to be your lover? To make your ex-fiancé jealous?" "I want you to help me break free from a future I don't want, while perhaps helping yourself as well. I noticed Captain Sterling watching you with considerable interest. A man with regrets, perhaps?" Heat flooded Zara's cheeks. Had her complicated feelings about Jace been that obvious? "This is insane. We barely know each other." "Sometimes the most authentic performances come from honest chemistry," Dex said softly. "And I believe we have that, don't we?" Before Zara could deny it, she felt the truth of his words in the way her body responded to his proximity, the way her breath quickened when he looked at her with those otherworldly eyes. "The Peace Summit begins tomorrow," Dex continued. 3. Days of negotiations, cultural exchanges, and social events. 3 days to convince both our peoples that human-Nexari cooperation is not only possible, but inevitable. And if we're caught? If they realize it's fake? Dex smiled, and the expression transformed his sharp features into something devastating. Then we'll have to make sure it doesn't feel fake. Can you do that, Zara Phoenix? Can you pretend to fall for an alien commander? Standing there in the soft lighting of the diplomatic station, surrounded by the quiet hum of two civilizations trying to understand each other, Zara felt the weight of possibility. This was dangerous, complicated, and potentially disastrous for both human-Nexari relations and her own heart. But looking into Dex's eyes, feeling the magnetic pull between them, she realized the most dangerous thing might be how little pretending would actually be required. 3 days, she heard herself say. 3 days, he agreed, and when he smiled, Zara felt her carefully ordered world tilt on its axis. The next morning dawned bright through the station's artificial atmosphere as delegations from both species prepared for the opening ceremonies of the summit. Zara stood before her mirror, adjusting the flowing dress she'd chosen, something that struck a balance between human fashion and what she hoped would appeal to Nexari aesthetics. Her hands trembled slightly as she fastened a necklace, the weight of what she'd agreed to settling on her shoulders. A soft chime at her door announced a visitor. When it opened, Dex stood there wearing robes that seemed to shift between midnight blue and deep purple, his alien beauty somehow more striking in the morning light. "You look radiant," he said, and the translator couldn't quite capture the warmth in his voice. "You clean up pretty well yourself?" Zara replied, then caught herself. "I mean, for an alien commander plotting to fool both our species." Dex stepped closer, reaching out to gently touch the pendant at her throat. "May I?" At her nod, he fastened a second necklace around her neck, this one clearly Nexari in origin, with stones that seemed to hold captured starlight. "Now you wear both our worlds," he said softly, "as we both must, for the next 3 days. The weight of the alien jewelry against her skin felt strangely intimate, and when Dex's fingers brushed her neck as he adjusted the clasp, Zara shivered. "Ready to make history?" he asked. Looking at him, feeling the connection that had sparked between them despite every rational reason it shouldn't exist, Zara nodded. "Let's give them a show they'll never forget." As they walked toward the main assembly hall together, Zara caught sight of Jace watching from across the corridor, his expression unreadable. Behind them, she sensed Nisa's cold gaze following their every move. The game had begun, but as Dex's hand found hers and their fingers intertwined, Zara wondered if they were playing for much higher stakes than either of them had originally intended. The Grand Assembly Hall of the diplomatic station gleamed with representatives from both species as the Peace Summit officially began. Zara sat beside Dex at the Nexari delegation table, acutely aware of every eye upon them. The human and alien sitting together as equals was a powerful visual statement, one that sent ripples of whispered conversation through both delegations. Admiral Harrison, the human diplomatic leader, stood to address the assembly. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic history. The cooperation between our species begins not just with trade agreements or military pacts, but with understanding, with connection." His eyes found Zara and Dex. "Some connections transcend the boundaries we thought impossible to cross." Beside her, Dex's hand found hers beneath the table. His skin was warmer than she'd expected, with a subtle electric quality that made her pulse race. What had started as performance was beginning to feel dangerously real. "Phase 1 complete," he murmured in her ear, his breath sending shivers down her spine. "They're all watching us." Zara glanced around the room. Jace sat with the human military delegation, his jaw tight as he observed their joined hands. Across the aisle, Nissa maintained her serene expression, but her luminous eyes held a cold fury that made Zara's skin crawl. "Your ex looks like she wants to vaporize me," Zara whispered back. "Let her look. In Nexari culture, public displays of affection are considered declarations of serious intent. By holding your hand here, I'm essentially announcing our bond to both our peoples." "Bond?" Zara's heart skipped. That sounds more permanent than a 3-day charade. Dex's fingers tightened around hers. Perhaps some charades revealed deeper truths. The morning sessions focused on technological exchanges, with Zara presenting human engineering innovations to fascinated Nexari scientists. She found herself in her element, explaining quantum field theory and drive mechanics with passion and precision. The Nexari delegates leaned forward, genuinely impressed by human ingenuity and creativity. "Your species approaches problems with remarkable intuition," commented Dr. Keth Morfon, the Nexari chief scientist. "Where we calculate and analyze, you innovate and adapt. It's quite extraordinary. Humans excel at finding solutions others haven't considered," Dex added, his eyes on Zara. "They have a gift for seeing possibilities where others see only obstacles." The pride in his voice made heat bloom in Zara's chest. When was the last time Jace had looked at her work with such genuine admiration? During the lunch break, Jace approached their table as Dex stepped away to consult with his technical staff. "Zara, we need to talk." "Now?" "In the middle of the most important diplomatic event in human history?" Jace sat across from her, his expression serious. "Especially now. What are you doing with him? This alien?" "His name is Dex, and we're participating in cultural exchange, just like everyone else here." "Cultural exchange?" Jace's voice dropped to an urgent whisper. "Zara, you're playing with fire. We don't know anything about their biology, their intentions, their compatibility with humans." "Compatibility?" Zara raised an eyebrow. "Are you seriously giving me a lecture about compatibility? You who cheated on me because I was too focused on work and not focused enough on your career advancement?" Jace flinched. "That was different. That was a mistake. But this could be dangerous for you, for humanity's relationship with these aliens. The only thing dangerous here is your assumption that you have any say in my choices," Zara replied, coolly. "I'm a grown woman, Jace. I can handle an alien commander." "Can you?" Jace leaned forward. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're in over your head. He's not human, Zara. Whatever you think you feel, whatever he's making you feel, it's not real." Before Zara could respond, a familiar presence made her skin tingle. Dex had returned, moving with that predatory grace that marked him as clearly non-human. His eyes fixed on Jace with an intensity that made the human captain visibly uncomfortable. "Captain Sterling," Dex said smoothly, settling beside Zara with possessive casualness. "I trust you're finding the summit educational." "Very," Jace replied, stiffly. "Though I'm curious about Nexari intentions regarding human partnerships." "Our intentions are quite straightforward," Dex replied, his hand coming to rest on Zara's shoulder. "We value what is precious. We protect what is ours. And we don't easily surrender what brings us joy." The territorial undertone was unmistakable, and Jace's face darkened. "Zara isn't property to be claimed." "No," Dex agreed, his eyes never leaving Jace's face. "She's a brilliant woman making her own choices. Perhaps you should respect them." The tension between the two males was thick enough to cut, and Zara found herself oddly thrilled by Dex's protective stance. When Jace finally left, she turned to Dex with raised eyebrows. "That was quite a performance, was it?" Dex asked, his alien features unreadable. "I found myself meaning every word." That afternoon brought a tour of the station's hydroponics bays, where human agricultural techniques were being demonstrated for the Nexari delegation. Zara and Dex walked through the growing chambers, marveling at the efficiency of the automated systems. Your species has a remarkable relationship with growing things, Dex observed, watching nutrient solutions flow through transparent tubes. On Nexari Prime, we've largely moved beyond biological agriculture. But you lose something in that transition, Zara said, reaching out to touch a tomato vine. There's satisfaction in nurturing life, in watching something grow because of your care. Yes, Dex said quietly, but when she looked at him, he was watching her rather than the plants. I'm beginning to understand that satisfaction. They found themselves alone in a smaller growing chamber, surrounded by the gentle hum of circulation systems and the green scent of growing things. The lighting was softer here, more intimate, and when Dex stepped closer, Zara felt her breath. Catch! We should return to the others, she said, even as her body betrayed her by leaning toward him. Should we? His hand came up to cup her cheek, and she marveled at how perfectly human the gesture felt, despite his alien nature. Or should we explore this connection that neither of us expected? Dex, she whispered. But her protest died as his thumb traced across her lower lip. I know this wasn't part of our arrangement, he said softly, but I find myself wanting more than pretense, more than performance. Before she could respond, his lips met hers. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, but when she melted against him, it deepened into something hungry and desperate. His mouth was warm, familiar yet exotic, and when his tongue touched hers, she tasted something like electricity and starlight. Zara, he breathed against her lips, and her name sounded like poetry in his alien accent. This is crazy, she whispered back, even as her hands fisted in his robes. We're from different species, different worlds. The heart recognizes no borders, Dex replied, pressing his forehead to hers. In all my travels across the galaxy, I've never felt anything like this. A soft sound made them spring apart. Nissa stood in the doorway, her expression serene but her eyes blazing with fury. Commander, she said coolly, your presence is required in the strategy session. Of course, Dex replied, his composure returning instantly. Engineer Phoenix and I were just discussing agricultural applications. How thorough of you both. Nissa's gaze flicked between them with barely concealed venom. I do hope you're finding human cultivation techniques satisfying. As they walked back toward the main areas, Nissa fell into step beside Zara. You should know, she said quietly, that Nexari males form very intense attachments. What you might consider casual attraction, we experience as soul-deep bonding. I'd hate for you to cause irreparable damage through ignorance. And I'd hate for you to mistake concern for jealousy, Zara replied evenly. Dex is capable of making his own choices. Is he? Nissa's smile was sharp. Our bonding contract isn't merely political, human. It's biochemical. Nexari physiology creates dependencies that your species couldn't possibly understand. Break that bond, and you could destroy him. Fear clawed at Zara's throat. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself why he sought you out so quickly. Why the attraction feels so intense, so immediate. Nexari males in biochemical distress often form emergency attachments to available females. It's not love, child. It's desperation. Before Zara could respond, Nissa glided away, leaving behind doubt that poisoned every memory of Dex's touch, every whispered endearment. That evening's formal dinner was a tense affair. Zara sat beside Dex, hyper-aware of every gesture, every look, wondering what was real and what was alien biology. When he reached for her hand during the toasts, she pulled away. Is something wrong? He asked quietly. I don't know, she replied. Is there? His confusion seemed genuine, but Nissa's words echoed in her mind. How could she tell if his feelings were real when she didn't understand his biology, his culture, his needs? The entertainment portion of the evening featured both human and Nexari performers, but when the musicians called for volunteers, Jace stood before Zara could react. "I'd like to dedicate this song to someone very special," he announced, his eyes finding hers across the room. "Someone I was foolish enough to let go." The melody was one of their old favorites, a soft ballad about second chances and forgiveness. Jace's voice was smooth and practiced, and as he sang, Zara remembered all the good times they'd shared, the laughter, the passion, the dreams they'd built together before ambition and betrayal tore them apart. When the song ended to warm applause, Jace approached their table. "Zara, dance with me? For old time's sake?" She hesitated, glancing at Dex. His expression was carefully neutral, but she caught the tension in his shoulders. "Go," he said quietly. "Resolve what needs resolving." On the dance floor, Jace pulled her close, and the familiar scent of his cologne brought back a flood of memories. "I've missed this," he murmured against her hair. "Missed us." "Jace, I know I hurt you. I know I was an idiot. But we were good together, Zara. We understood each other. We're the same species, the same culture. We want the same things." "Do we?" Zara pulled back to look at him. "Because I seem to remember you wanting advancement more than you wanted me." "I was scared," he admitted. "Scared of how much I needed you. It's easier to focus on career goals than to admit you've found the person you want to spend your life with." His honesty surprised her, and for a moment, she saw the man she'd fallen in love with beneath the polished officer's facade. "It's not too late," Jace continued. "We could start over. Build something real this time. Something that doesn't depend on alien politics or biochemical bonds or whatever this thing with him really is." As the music swelled around them, Zara found herself torn between the familiar comfort of her past and the electric promise of something entirely new. Across the room, she could see Dex watching them dance, his alien features unreadable. But beside him, Nisa wore a smile of cold satisfaction, and Zara realized that whatever choice she made tonight would change everything for all of them. The final day of the summit dawned with crisis alarms echoing through the diplomatic station. Zara jolted awake in her quarters, still wearing her dress from the previous night's dinner, her mind foggy from restless sleep filled with dreams of starlight eyes and whispered warnings. The emergency klaxons cut through her confusion like a blade. "All personnel to emergency stations. Unknown vessels detected at the system perimeter. All personnel to emergency stations." Zara's training kicked in as she raced to the engineering section. The corridors buzzed with activity as both human and Nexari personnel moved with urgent purpose. In the main engineering bay, she found chaos. "Phoenix," Chief Torres called out. "We've got massive power fluctuations in the station's defensive grid. Something's jamming our systems from the outside." Zara's fingers flew over the diagnostic displays, her mind shifting into the focused clarity that came with technical crisis. "These aren't random failures. Someone's using harmonic frequencies to disrupt our quantum field generators." "The Valdris," came a familiar voice behind her. She turned to find Dex striding into the engineering bay, his formal robes replaced, with what looked like battle armor that shifted color to match his surroundings. "A species we've encountered before. They're slavers, raiders. They must have followed our diplomatic convoy." Admiral Harrison's voice crackled over the comm system. "All hands. We have 3 Valdris warships moving to intercept. They're demanding..." "We surrender both delegations for processing and sale. Estimated time to weapons range, 47 minutes. The blood drained from Zara's face. Everything they'd worked for, the fragile peace between their species, the hope for a united future, was about to be destroyed by alien pirates who saw them as nothing more than exotic merchandise. "Our weapons systems are still initializing," Torres reported grimly. The station wasn't designed for combat. We're sitting ducks. No, Dex said firmly, moving to stand beside Zara at her console. The station may not be armed, but both our ships are. The problem is coordination. Nexari and human tactical systems aren't compatible. Zara stared at the scrolling data, her engineer's mind racing through possibilities. What if we don't try to make them compatible? What if we use the differences as an advantage? Explain, Dex said, leaning closer. Despite everything, his proximity still made her pulse race. Human tactics rely on unpredictability, improvisation, rapid adaptation. Nexari tactics are based on precision, calculated responses, perfect timing. The Valdris have fought both our species before, so they know how to counter each approach individually. Understanding dawned in Dex's alien features. But if we combine them, they won't know what hit them, Zara finished. But we'd need perfect integration between our systems, real-time communication and coordination. That's impossible, Torres said. Our comm protocols don't even use the same base frequencies. Zara's eyes met Dex's, and she saw the same wild idea reflected in his gaze. Not impossible. Dangerous, maybe insane, but not impossible. What are you thinking? Admiral Harrison had appeared in the engineering bay, his face grim with the weight of command. Neural interface, Zara said. Direct mind-to-mind communication between human and Nexari tactical officers. If we can create a bridge between our thought processes, we can coordinate in real time. That's theoretical technology, the Admiral protested. Completely untested between species. Nexari have limited telepathic abilities, Dex added, but bridging to a non-telepathic species would require physical contact and extreme mental synchronization. How extreme? Zara asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Complete trust. Absolute mental intimacy. The kind of connection usually reserved for lifelong mates. Dex's eyes searched her face. The risk isn't just technical failure. If something goes wrong during the interface, both minds could be damaged permanently. And if we don't try, we all get sold to alien slavers, Zara replied. I'd say the choice is obvious. 20 minutes later, Zara found herself in the station's medical bay, various monitoring devices attached to her temples, while Nexari technicians calibrated their exotic equipment. Dex lay on an adjacent table, similar devices creating a soft, blue glow around his silver-streaked hair. The neural bridge will create a direct link between your consciousness, Dr. Keth explained. You'll share thoughts, emotions, sensory input. Commander Vorthon will be able to access your intuitive pattern recognition while you gain access to his tactical calculations. What about the biochemical bonding Nissa mentioned? Zara asked. Is this going to trigger some kind of permanent attachment? Dex turned his head to look at her, and his expression was painfully honest. Nexari do form deep bonds through mental intimacy. But Nissa lied about the biochemical dependency. We don't create destructive attachments. We simply recognize when we've found someone worth keeping. And have you? Zara whispered. Found someone worth keeping? I found her the moment she challenged a room full of diplomats with nothing but truth and passion, Dex replied softly. The question is whether she's found anything worth keeping in an alien commander with more duty than sense. Before Zara could respond, the ship shuddered under a warning shot from the approaching Valdris vessels, initiating neural bridge in 3, 2, 1. The world exploded into sensation. Suddenly, Zara could feel Dex's mind touching hers, his thoughts flowing through her consciousness like liquid starlight. She gasped at the intensity of it, the overwhelming rightness of the connection. Through his eyes, she saw tactical displays, with mathematical precision that made her human intuition sing with possibility. Through her mind, he experienced the wild leaps of logic and creative problem-solving that marked human innovation at its finest. It's working, she breathed. but the words came from both their mouths simultaneously. "Fleet positions!" Admiral Harrison called out. "Valdris ships moving to surround us!" Through the neural link, Zara and Dex became something new. Her human unpredictability guided his Nexari precision, while his calculated responses gave structure to her intuitive leaps. Together, they began orchestrating a defense that neither species could have managed alone. "Human ships, execute pattern Phoenix 7, they called out in perfect unison. "Nexari vessels, implement harmony of the seventh moon. Integration point in 47 seconds. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Human ships darted and weaved in seemingly random patterns that suddenly revealed themselves as precisely calculated positioning maneuvers. Nexari vessels executed flowing formations that transformed into chaotic attacks the moment enemy targeting systems locked on. "They're beautiful together," someone whispered in the command center, watching the tactical display as human and Nexari ships danced through space in perfect synchronization. But it was more than just tactical coordination. Through the neural link, Zara experienced the full depth of Dex's feelings for her. His admiration for her brilliant mind, his desire for her passionate spirit, his protective instincts that had nothing to do with alien biology, and everything to do with a heart that had found its match across the stars. And he felt her love, in return. Not the comfortable familiarity she'd shared with Jace, but something transcendent and transformative. A connection that made her feel like she could become more than she'd ever imagined possible. "Valdris flagship is breaking formation," came the tactical report. "They're requesting terms for withdrawal." "Terms granted," Admiral Harrison announced. "All Valdris vessels will withdraw immediately and spread word that this system is under joint human-Nexari protection." As the enemy ships disappeared into hyperspace, Zara and Dex slowly disconnected from the neural interface. The separation felt like losing a part of herself, but when she opened her eyes and found him watching her with wonder, she realized they'd gained something that couldn't be taken away. "That was," she began. "Incredible," he finished. "We were incredible." In the celebrating crowd that surrounded them, Zara caught sight of Jace standing near the observation windows. Their eyes met across the room, and she saw acceptance in his expression, perhaps even approval. "Go," Dex said softly, having followed her gaze. "Finish what needs finishing." Jace met her halfway, his smile sad but genuine. "That was the most amazing display of tactical coordination I've ever witnessed." "You two make quite a team." "We do," Zara agreed. "I'm sorry, Jace. For what we had, for what we lost, for not being able to find our way back." "Don't be sorry," he replied, reaching out to squeeze her hand briefly. "I'm learning that sometimes love means letting go. You found something extraordinary, Zara. Something I could never give you." "What's that?" "Someone who makes you shine brighter instead of asking you to dim your light for them." When Jace walked away, Zara felt the final weight of her past lifting from her shoulders. She turned to find Dex approaching, his alien features soft with emotion. "No more pretending?" he asked. "No more pretending," she agreed, moving into his arms. "Just us. Human and Nexari. Different species, different worlds, same heart. The diplomatic corps will have opinions about this relationship," Dex warned, even as he pulled her closer. "Let them," Zara replied, standing on her toes to kiss him properly. "We just proved that human and Nexari cooperation can accomplish impossible things. I'd say we're excellent ambassadors for our species." Around them, members of both delegations watched with smiles and whispered conversations. The summit had ended not just with trade agreements and military pacts, but with proof that connection could transcend any boundary. "Besides," Zara added, with a grin, "someone has to pioneer human-Nexari relationships. Might as well be the engineer and the commander who saved the galaxy through the power of synchronized tactics and stubborn attraction. Dex laughed, the sound rich and warm. I love your human optimism. And I love your alien complexity, she replied. Think we can make this work across the stars? With you, Dex said, his forehead touching hers in the gesture that had become theirs. I believe we can make anything work. Outside the station's windows, both human and Nexari ships flew in formation toward their respective home systems, carrying news of successful diplomacy and unprecedented cooperation. But inside, two hearts from different worlds had found something that would change both their species forever, proof that love truly could transcend the stars. As Nisa approached to offer grudging congratulations and formal release from their bonding contract, Zara realized that sometimes the best way to outsmart an ex was to find something so genuine, so transformative, that pretending became impossible. And sometimes, the most beautiful love stories began with the decision to fake it until you realized you weren't faking it at all.